Okie dokie. Pre-algebra, this is our last test. This is test 25. We are going to review half of it today and half of it on Thursday. So we're going to do 1 through 10 today. So grab a seat, grab a pencil, maybe a calculator, maybe a snack, fruit roll-up. I don't know. Do they even have fruit roll-ups anymore? I used to have those when I was a kid. It would get sticky, and I didn't have the patience to like tear off pieces, so I just shoved it all in my mouth. Made this big fruit wad, and then my mouth got sore. Gross. Anyway, don't get a fruit roll-up. Get a granola bar or something. Let's do this. Test 25.
Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack math!
All right, number 1, the ratio of frogs to toads is 1 to 4. Okay, when you don't know, tic-tac-toe. So I'm gonna go frogs. I'm gonna go toads. I don't even know what the question's asking, but I just want to do this. And then I'm going to say total, just in case I need it. So this is our ratio column, and this is our actual number column. So 1 to 4, frogs to toads, make sure you keep it in that same order. If there were 685 frogs, 685 frogs and toads. So that's not frogs or toads, it's frogs and toads. Where does that 685 go? It goes in our total, 685. Well, we do have a total ratio. If it's a 1 to 4 ratio, then our total is 5. Okay, so now what are we asking for? Toads. So this is what we want. We want this. So I'm gonna put a variable here. Let's say T for toads. Okay, so now look, I've got a proportion here. If you want to rewrite it, you can. If it makes you feel better, you can do that. But then we're just gonna fish method, or you can use the equivalent fraction method. Either way works. You can fish it by multiplying 685 times 4 divided by 5 to get your T, or you can figure out how many times 5 goes into 685, and that actually goes in 137 times. Okay, so 4 times 137 is gonna be 548 toads. Okay, well, let's see if the fish method gives me the same result. So 685 times 4 divided by 5. All right, 685 times 4 divided by 5. 548. So that works. Number 1, done. Number 2, 20 less than the product of 3 and a number is negative 29. What is the number? We're gonna translate. How do you say 20 less than something? Well, how do you say 2 less than 10? Is it 2 minus 10? No, you have to reverse it. So it's something minus 20. Okay, the product. What's the product of something? What's the product of 3 and a number? The product is when you multiply, so 3 and a number. How do you say a number? That'll be a variable. So 20 less than the product of 3 and a number. Then how do you say is negative 29? Equals negative 29. So solving equations, you have to get rid of everything except n. So what are you going to get rid of first? Well, this minus 20 looks pretty easy. So let's get rid of minus 20 first by adding 20. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. So you're left with 3n on this side. And what happens when you add a negative and a positive? They fight. And who had more negatives? They had 9 more. Last step, get rid of that 3. So we're going to get rid of the easy stuff first and then get rid of the harder stuff later when you're solving equations. So to get rid of 3, you divide it, because what's that 3 doing to the n? It's multiplying. So divide by 3, n equals negative 3. That's it. Let's plug it into our sentence and see if it works. 20 less than the product of 3 and a number. Well, product of 3 and negative 3 is negative 9. And 20 less than that is negative 9 minus 20, which is negative 29. It works. Cool. All right, number 3. Apollo traveled 84 leagues in 6 days. So that's a nice little ratio there. Then he doubled his rate. How long did it take him to travel 112 leagues at his new speed? Well, first of all, since this is a rate, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to reduce it. So let's divide. Let's see if this divides nicely. It does. You get 14 leagues per day. Okay? Let's see, to double it means you're gonna multiply it by 2. Do not multiply the top and the bottom by 2. Some of you did this on a previous test. Don't do it. You're just multiplying by 2. So you're just doubling how many leagues per day he can travel, which makes sense because if you double both, 28 leagues in 2 days, that's the same thing as 14 leagues in 1 day. Okay? So 28 leagues in 1 day. That's our new rate, okay? How long will it take him to travel 112 leagues? Well, you can set up a proportion or you can just divide by 28. But if you're too confused, let's just do a proportion and we'll do the fish method, okay? 28 leagues in 1 day equals 112 leagues in how many days, okay? So you can do the fish method. So 112 times 1 divided by 28. Really, you're just dividing 112 by 28. And you know what you get? You get 4. So this is 4 days. All right, number 3, done. Number 4, graph the line y equals x plus 5. Choose 0, 5, and negative 5 for x values, okay? So we're going to do a little t-chart here. And our x and y values, they tell us to choose 0, 5, and negative 5 for our x values. So we have to figure out what y is going to be when we plug in 0 for x. Then we have to figure out what y is going to be when we plug in 5 for x. And then we have to figure out what y is going to be when we plug in negative 5 for x. So let's do that. So when we plug in 0 for x, y equals 0 plus 5, which is 5. So this is just 5. When we plug in 5 for x, we get 5 plus 5, which is 10. When we plug in negative 5 for x, we get negative 5 plus 5, which is 0. So these are 3 points that we can now graph. Remember, when you're graphing, you're going left or right and then up or down. So we're going to go left or right 0 and then up 5. Left or right 5, so we're going to go right 5 and then up 10, right to there. Okay, and then negative 5 and then up or down 0, so that's what that looks like. So when you connect these suckers together, this is what it looks like. Nice. Beautiful. And then put some nice arrows on the end and call it good. All right, that's not bad. Can you handle that? Okay, good. Okay, number 5. The number of bacteria increased 240%. So the big word here is increase. So that means you find 240% of the original bacteria and then you add it to that original amount. A lot of you forgot to add that to the original amount. So if you find 240% of 35,000, and then you have to add it plus 35,000, okay? Or in other words, 240% of 35,000 plus another 100% of 35,000. So you could just find 340% of 35,000 and you're done. But let's do it this way. How do you say 240%? 2.4. How do you say of? Times. How do you say 35,000? 35,000. And then we're going to add it to 35,000. All right, 2.4 times 35,000 is 84,000 plus another 35,000 equals 119,000 bacteria. Stay indoors. All right, number 6. What fractional part of 70 is 28? Translate. How do you say what fractional part? F. That's right. Okay, and then how do you say of 70? What does of mean? Multiply. So 70 times 70. And then how do you say is 28? Well, that's just equals 28. So look, you have an equation. F times 70 equals 28. How do you solve for F? Divide both sides by 70. Yay. So 28 divided by 70. I could put that in a calculator, but that's not going to help me because I'm looking for a fractional part. So all we need to do is reduce this sucker. What goes into both 28 and 70? Well, 2 does, but 7 does. 4 times and 10 times. But look, 2 goes into that, so we could have taken a 14 out of both of those and gotten 2/5. That's cool. All right, that's number 6. Let's do number 7. The two-dimensional drawing shows a base of a right solid that is 13 centimeters tall. Find the volume of the solid. Dimensions are in centimeters, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's how you find the volume of any prism or right solid like that. Area of base times the height of the prism, so which is 13, okay? So how do you find the area of this base? Well, it's kind of a weird base, so we're gonna break it up into 2 bases that we know. This is a 6 by 10 rectangle, so that's 60. Well, what's this? Well, if this is 6 and this whole thing is 10, that means that's 4. And then this is 10 here. How do you find the area of a triangle? Good. Base times height divided by 2. Don't forget to divide by 2. So base times height, 4 times 10 is 40, divided by 2 is 20. All right, so you got a 60 and a 20. So your area of the base is 80, right? Because 60 plus 20 equals 80 times your height, which is 13. Well, let's do that math. That's just 1,040. And what's our dimensions in centimeters? So remember, volume is cubic. How many cubes can you fit in there? So 1,040 cubic centimeters. Boom. Number 8. Here we go. Find the surface area of this right triangular solid. Dimensions are in meters. Okay, so surface area is going to be a bunch of different faces. We got the front, the back, the left, the right, and the bottom. We just have 5. Okay, so surface area equals front plus back plus left plus right plus bottom. Okay, so the front is a triangle. It is a 12 by 8 triangle. And another one of those. So we're just gonna do 2 of those. We're gonna find the area of both of those. 12 by 8. Left and right look the same. It's a 10 by 11 rectangle. 2 of those. Plus the bottom, which is another rectangle. Looks like it's a 12 by 11 rectangle. We did one of these on our last test. That's okay. Find the area of a triangle. It's 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. It's 1/2 base. 6 times 8 is 48. Plus another 48. Plus 110. Plus 110. Plus 132. For a grand total of 48 plus 48 plus 110 plus 110 plus 132 equals 448. Dimensions are in meters, square meters, because we're looking for surface area, squarea. Okay. All right, moving on. We're just gonna do 2 more and then we'll do the rest on Thursday. Find 2 consecutive integers in between the cubed root. Don't forget, the cubed root of 275. Okay, so that means what integers is it in between? Well, if we try to figure out what the cubed root of 275 is, we're asking ourselves what times itself 3 times equals 275, okay? Well, let's try to think of some numbers. The best way to do this is start guessing. So let's try 5. So 5 times 5 times 5 equals 125. That's a little low. Let's try 6. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. Ooh, getting closer. 7 times 7 times 7 is 49 times 7 is 343. Ooh, look, it's somewhere in between there. So it looks like it's in between 6 and 7. So you can just say in between 6 and 7, or you can do what the cool kids are doing and say the cubed root of 275 in between 6 and 7. Boom. All right, least common multiple. All right, this is a fun one because if you try to list all these out, it's going to take you forever. So do it this way. This is the shortcut. Here's what we need to do. We need to do factor trees of these 3 guys. So this is just 2 times 11 and you're done. Okay, so that's what 22 is. Let's look at 26. Well, that's just 2 times 13, and you're done. All right, let's do the third one, 351. Well, that's going to take some work. Okay. What goes into 351? 9 does. 9 goes in 39 times. All right, and then 9 is 3 times 3. And 39 is 3 times 13. So 351 is 3 to the third power times 13. Okay? The least common multiple is going to be the biggest of each factor. So let's look at our 2's. The biggest that 2 appears is just 1 time. Okay? So the biggest exponent of 2 is just 2 to the first power. Okay? What's the biggest exponent of the 3's? Well, the biggest exponent is 3, so 3 to the third power. What's the biggest exponent of the 11's? Just 1 11. The biggest exponent of 13 is just 1 13. Okay? Multiply that out, you get 2 times 27 times 11 times 13. Okay, so that's 54 times 11, which is 594 times 13. All right. 594 times 13 equals 7,722. That was a big number. That would have taken you a long time to do it manually. So that's 1 through 10 of this test. Boom, we're half done. Let's figure out 11 through 20 on Thursday. Stay tuned.
Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack